I think back when I first came to Lincoln back in 2003, the first person I heard from, my wife remembers this, Mary Pat remembers this, that my phone rang and my dad knew that I was talking to University of Nebraska, and at the time I was at Green Bay, and he didn't know whether I was going to take the job. And then finally when it came out that I was going to take the job, the phone rang. The first person called was my dad, and he was thrilled. And I said, why? I couldn't figure out why he was so thrilled. He said, well, I've done my research. And I said, well, Dad, they've been successful. He said, no, forget about that. It's the best diocese. Lincoln is the best diocese. Yeah! I heard Father talk about, what is it, Mother Angelica? And my dad, I've watched it a lot, I'll put it that way. Not the first thing that I choose to put on my TV, but when I'm at my parents' house, it's on a lot. But it's just something that's been very important. Catholicism, Catholic education, is something that's really defined who I am and who my family is. My wife and I both went to Catholic schools all the way through school, and our families made a tremendous amount of sacrifices to enable that to happen, and we're doing the same with our kids. And I'll tell you a couple stories. Yesterday, we were, you just see it working in your children, and I tell you, it's funny because yesterday we were getting ready to go to 5:30 Mass over at St. Peter's, and our youngest, Carolyn, she was already settled in on the couch, and we said, get up and get ready, get dressed, we're going to church. And she said, oh no, not to, just go tomorrow, no. And I said, it's not up for debate, get up, get ready to go to church. She said, she's not at that age yet. She just said, oh, we gotta go to church. Up, down, sit down, stand up, sit down. And as she walked up the steps, that's what she said. And then, I'm like, well, we haven't reached her yet. So then we're at church, and I kind of hurt my leg a little bit at practice a couple weeks back, and we were sitting in the back. The church was full, so we brought some folding chairs and we sit down, and we're kind of sitting in the folding chairs, and so we kneel down, and they go through the breaking of the bread, and we go through, and it gets through past the Our Father, and we go to kneel again before Lamb of God, and they said, so I sat back down in the chair. Patrick, I said, sit down. To my 9-year-old, and he says, and he kind of looks at me funny, and my leg was kind of throbbing a little bit, and he said, we need to kneel. And I said, okay. And so we kneeled down. I said, time for Daddy to suck it up. And I kneeled down, and he looked at me and he said, it's about sacrifice. So it's great for us as parents, and for me to see that it's working. And it just, I feel like, it's interesting because when I go to different jobs, different places, I've seen a lot of different dioceses. I think this place is special, for a lot of reasons, for the people, what it brings to our faith, obviously the university. There's so many things here that are just the right place, make this the right place for our family, and a lot of it is due to our experience here in the diocese and St. Peter's Parish, and we know a tremendous amount of people over at St. Joe's in different areas, and we're excited to be here. And I go back to a lot of times, we have newspapers, and I get the question a lot of, everybody thinks I'm this nut running around the sideline, jumping around with my players, and that's who I am. It's obviously not who I am off the field, but on the field, you change, and when it's competition, it's a different deal. But they ask, where, not just myself, but Bob Stoops at Oklahoma. A lot of us from the same background. We have a couple guys, other guys, obviously my brother Carl, Tim Beck, people from the similar background to myself, and they say, what is it in Youngstown, Ohio? that has enabled you, so many coaches to come out and have success. And, whether it's, your faith, or whether it's football, or I believe in any wake of life, it's any profession, the same things equate to success. That's commitment, that's sacrifice, it's your attitude, your focus, the things that you believe in deeply and being committed to on a daily basis. And there's no different in your faith. And fortunately for me and my wife, Mary Pat, and the people who grew up in the same area, same schools that we went to, we were really reaped the benefits of the sacrifices that other people made for us. And most of it was obviously because of the cap-oriented upbringing that we had. And, all the way down to our high school, like the people who worked in the schools, the people, our parents, and that's why I'm standing in front of you today. And I realize that, and it really had a deep impact on my life. And the more people who could be exposed to the same things that I was exposed to, and people who don't have the same benefits that I have. If you more get touched through Catholic radio, then the world's gonna be a better place, and I know that. And I just take you back to when I was a young kid. It's a story that's really had a deep impact on my life. And my father, he's flying in today into Omaha to come in for the spring game. He would have loved to have been here today, but I couldn't have told this story had he been here. Because he's very much like myself. Before my mother passed, my mother and father, once he retired, they went to school every day, or went to mass every day. And he's very, very involved in the Catholic Church. And he's up in all the readings, and he does a tremendous amount of research, and he's just extremely. You kind of become who your parents were and what they believe in. And I think back to when I was a young kid. I was the youngest of 8 children, and he had us all going through Catholic schools, public schools. There was no option in our family, and we were all going to Catholic schools. And my mother was a stay-at-home mom, and I was just like my dad, made a tremendous amount of sacrifices for us. And my dad was a pharmaceutical salesman, and had a nice job, and was with the company for a long time. And when he first started, we got back from the war, and he got in, and finished his degree. He started working. He was in Youngstown. He went to Cleveland for a year, and he came back, and he was with the same company for a long, long time. And I believe I was trying to think of how old I was at the time, probably 7th or 8th grade. And, we had enough. We were never hurting for things. My parents we did not have a lot of money growing up. But one day I could just tell that things weren't right at home. And, there was a lot of conversations between my mom and dad, but it was very private. But you could just tell, at that age that things weren't right. And, at that time, he had, once again, we were all in school. We had a number of my brothers and sisters who were in college, and they were trying to pay for their education. And I found out that years later that there were a lot of things going on. There were people that my dad worked with coming in and out. And I couldn't figure out what was going on, but years later you find out that my dad had resigned his job because they were trying to get him to market an abortion drug. And he said that was, he resigned his job and said, I can't do it. And, there's no way he could have done what was necessary. They just decided as a family we were going to figure it out. And that's who he is. And I believe that, that kind of commitment has taught me a lot for years, and it will teach me for years to come, that you can't sacrifice what you believe in for material things. That's got to be who you are. And it's the same thing in making a commitment like this, and making a project like this kick off, and to make sure it comes to fruition. You have to make a sacrifice. You have to be committed to it. It's got to become who you are, and it's not about the money. It's not about anything else. It's about what this means to the diocese, to Catholicism, and the impact it can have on the world.